guys, it's SJ. Happy Baby Name Monday. If you're brand new, my name is SJ, and every single Monday on YouTube I do a new YouTube list. I do a name list on YouTube for name inspiration. I've been doing it for years, and I'm now kind of full-blown baby name consultant, mainly to you guys, the podcast Baby Name Envy. There is a new episode live where me and my sister are solving all your name dilemmas, and I also report on baby names in the press. So today I found an amazing list which is our top 10 middle names. So I've always wanted to know the middle names, and they're pretty classic names. What I found out is that most people do, either they go really brave in the middle spot and go a bit more daring because it's a bit less known, you can be a bit wild, or we normally sort of default to family names. In a survey by Ancestry.com, they talked about lots and lots of people choosing family names as the middle spot. And obviously then it doesn't really matter if you love the name or not, it is something about honouring somebody. Or we go very traditional and just something very simple so it doesn't overpower the first name. And I feel like this list is very traditional, very, very simple, not overpowering. But I didn't want to give you just the top 10 middle names. What I've done is come up with alternatives to them all as well. So if you love this middle name but you just think it's a little bit dull and lacks a bit of sparkle, you're going to get the sparkle here. So I will get on with the list. I'm going to do girls this week, and then I will do the boy version next week. So it's the top 10, but some of these are joint 10s. So at 10 is joint popularity for middle spots for girls, Kate and Victoria. So not surprised, very royal, very British royal, aren't they? Kate and Victoria, because obviously you have Kate Middleton, I know that's her maiden name, and Queen Victoria has been a very historic name for us. So I can see, but they're almost opposites, whereas Kate is a one syllable and probably balances out a longer first name, and then Victoria being the opposite, you probably use it for a shorter first name, and that's also something to take into account is the melody of it and how many syllables you've got. So I felt for Victoria, if you wanted to use the same number of syllables but have something a little bit more special, I love the name Viola. So it's really different. Violet is so popular, and actually quite a few people don't like the name Violet because it reminds them of the word violent. So sorry if you have a Violet, it doesn't me, but a lot of people do say that in the comments. I thought I'd just put it out there. Whereas, so if that's on your mind, then Viola really sidesteps that issue, and it's a Shakespearean character name, so it's a really, really beautiful one. Just moved ever so slightly because I've got just the normal natural light and it's just going crazy. So the next name I really love though is Viviana. So Victoria, it is a classic and you kind of can't change it too much, but Viviana is so beautiful. It's got that length, and you can imagine it if you want that long names and you like it, or Victoria's been pinched. I think Vivi's really cute with Viviana as well, and it just seems really, really modern to me. Or if you like a Victorian name, like Victoria, and that's why you like it. I think a name that sounds similar, Victoria to me is quite hard, is the wrong word, but you know, like it's got the strong V, it's got the strong T. I really like Agatha. So I know some of you might not like it, but I feel like a lot of us will because we're quite quirky namers, and it is the ultimate Victorian name. It was so popular in Victorian times, Agatha. Hasn't yet come back yet, and it means good woman. So I just think it's a really strong, classic, gorgeous name. For Kate, alternatives for Kate in the middle spot. Kate, I think, is going to come back because the main character in Bridgerton Series 2, the main female lead, is going to be called Kate. It's not going to follow Daphne and the Duke as much anymore. It's a bit devastating, but I think Kate is going to get really popular. If you want to modernise Kate, you really could go with Kitty. I feel like Kitty and Kate, and even just Kit. Kit is a small baby fox as well, so quite sweet if you want a more modern version of Kate. But I do think that Kitty, for some reason I feel like Kitty and Kate, they're very, very similar sounding, but I feel like if you like Kate, you would like Kitty more than Kit. I don't know why, because Kate's so sort of classically feminine maybe, and it's got that vintage vibe, Kitty, as well. I also thought you might like the name Tess. So I was going for a one syllable middle spot for Kate, because I was thinking if you've got, say, like an Amelia Kate, and then you could go Amelia Kitty, which sounds really nice, or even Amelia Tess. I think it automatically, Tess does lift it a little bit for me, and it's got the T from Kate, but there's a tiny bit more kind of like, ooh, interesting than Kate. If you're going for, ooh, interesting as the reaction, then go with Tess, I think. Or I thought this is a wild card, but you could go the name Sky. So it's really, really different from Kate. I know it does have the K and the E, and all I was thinking is if this was to honour somebody like a Kate or a Katie, Sky has got a lot of the same letters in it and has that one syllable again to make it balance. But it's a little bit of a wild card, Sky, but I think a lot of you would put Sky on your middle name. So the number 9 most popular middle spots for girls are the names Amy and Catherine, joint 9th place again. So with Amy, it means beloved. And I don't know anyone with the middle name Amy, do you? I mean, I can imagine again, it's a sort of a classic and it's so pretty, simple, but also doesn't compete then with the first name. I think that's why it's getting used. The obvious place to go for an alternative for Amy, if we're looking for something with a bit more pizzazz in your middle spot, could be something like those double things like Gigi or Kiki or even Mimi. So that's the most similar to Amy, Mimi. And Mimi is a short form nickname for lots of names, including Naomi, which is my sister's name, and we call her Mimi. It's really lovely. It's French origin and it's just a pet name, as I said, for all of those types of names. So I feel like Mimi is so sweet in the middle. So you had to, you were going to go Annabelle Amy, then you go Annabelle Mimi. Again, it's just quite cute. I don't feel like Mini Me as well. I always think of it like a little bit like Mini Me. Or Alma. So you know I love the name Alma at the moment. I said that really weird then, Alma. It means feeds one's soul or lifts the spirit. It's Spanish. It's just sort of starting to creep in. So if you like Amy but you want to twist it up, Alma, so beautiful. I just love it. I'm really obsessed with that name at the moment. And then for Catherine, Catherine is such a weird name to me because Catherine and Caroline are 2 names that for some reason never go in my head. Like if I meet somebody, I always remember their names, obviously, because I'm obsessed with names. But Catherine and Caroline get totally muddled in my head and I forget them. Isn't that a weird thing? Why would that be happening? I thought for Catherine as a middle spot, you could go Catalina. So it's always the Lena at the end. Obviously, I like it because I have Evelina, and it's sort of a variation, quite Spanish again, quite European, to add the INA at the end of a name to modernise this a little bit. Catalina is really sweet and quite different from Catherine, but it honours the same name. It means pure, the same, so I think it's really nice. And the other one I've written down, because I love this name, is the name Katinka. Isn't that unusual, Katinka? So in my NCT class, one of the girls had a baby and called her Katinka, and then she called her Tinks as a nickname, and she said it was from a Dutch origin. I think she was Dutch, and I just had never heard that name, Katinka, Tinks, and I thought some of you would really, really like it as a first name actually, but as an alternative also to Catherine in the middle spot. So next up at number 8 is the name Mary in middle spots. That's actually my mum's middle name, and I always think it's a beautiful middle spot or first name, especially if you want to Bagsy that nativity play prize. I was Mary once, never forgotten it. But you could go with a longer form, Marisol, which is really beautiful, and it means sunny sea, which is beautiful because it's putting sun and sea together. Or it means wished for child, which is so gorgeous, Marisol, and I just really like it. I think it's probably, is it a Barbie movie name? It was so funny because lots of people always comment, oh, you always choose Barbie movie names. I'd never watched them until really recently. My 4-year-old's got obsessed with it, and now I'm like totally in Barbie movie world. But the one I loved is the name Milu. Isn't that so sweet? And it links to the number 1 middle spot, which I wonder if you can guess, Milu. But it's really beautiful. It is a derivative of Marie or Mary or even other names, and it's sort of the same as Milo for boys, but I would say Milu, but would you say Milu? Maybe it's supposed to be Milu, but I've been saying Milu. What do you think? But I think that Milu sounds really, really cute as an alternative for Mary. Oh no, and number 7 was the name Marie in the middle spot. All these names are so classic, aren't they, Marie? This was actually quite a hard one, Marie, to think of an alternative for. But then I came up with a few, so I thought a name that I'm really loving at the moment and that I know you guys are really loving is the name Josie. So if you just simply like the Marie and then Josie with the same IE ending, it's a beautiful name, and it really is starting to have its little resurge. It's obviously a short form of Josephine, which is coming up through the ranks. It's sort of having its little revival, with Josie being, a lot of people choose just the nickname, as you know, as the first name. So Josie could be really, really sweet. But I think the best one is probably Marnie. So instead of Marie, you go Marnie, and that's such a trendy name. I actually talk about it on the podcast episode this week. We had to pick a name for girls. We were talking about judging people on their names, and my sister was asking me names that I think are like good looking or pretty names, and I chose Marnie and Sloane, and then realised that we were super intimidated by anyone called Marnie and Sloane. But Marnie, such a easy upgrade of Marie if you're trying to bring Marie through the family a little bit, and it means rejoice, which is so lovely. Or you could go really simple with Marie and go Ria. So Ria is a really lovely name, just using the end of it, and I really like that, and it means small river. So like Rio means river, Ria means a small river apparently. And I think it's really nice and really cute for a middle spot. If you're struggling for a middle, you could go with Ria. So number 6 was the name May for middle spot. Not surprised at all. So many Mays. I know everyone with the middle name May. And I think again, it's just short and simple. It's got that sort of historic vintage feel and doesn't compete. And you can even double barrel it, hyphenate it when they're little, which a lot of people do. Instead of May, I think these are my favourite. Obviously you could go Maeve, which is booming at the moment, the name Maeve, an Irish goddess name, and it's just becoming really, really, really popular from being totally out of style. Maeve is back with a bang, and you'd be crazy not to use it as a middle spot because it's got a slight more length to it, but still one syllable and just looks really, really pretty. Maeve might be hard to pronounce in some places, but the one I absolutely love, an alternative to May, is my middle name crush at the moment, which is Gray. Oh, so at the moment, whenever I see a classic name, so it could be like a Charlotte Gray or an Amelia Gray, Isabel Gray, it just sounds so stunning. It's obviously a muted colour name. I did a whole video on muted colour names, which is sort of more back with the bangs, rather than going with the scarlets and the jasmines. We're looking at these more muted colours, and grey has become really popular. Grayson sort of started this boom with the boys, but I think Grey instead of May or instead of Grace as a middle spot is stunning. So try it out. Let me know your child's name with the middle name Gray, or what name you would perfectly match with it in the messages below, because I just think it's so pretty. The number 5 was the name Anne for a popular middle spot. This is such a name crush for me, and I've been thinking a lot about the name Annie and how much I love it. And if I had another baby, which I'm not, it would be, I'd have Freddie, Finn, Evelina and Annie. It would be so cute. I just think it's such a pretty name, but it's Anne as the middle spot. Again, very simple, kind of like chuck it in there without much thought. Does that mean? I just really love it, I do. But now I'm just trying to bring you down to bring you back up with my amazing idea. So I thought instead of Anne, you could go uber trendy but similar, Ren. So I know it's very different, but if you like Anne, Anne does have that sort of special warmth to it to me as a name, Anne. I just think it's so simple, but puts you in a place of sort of the moors, being out on the moors, wandering like in sort of Victorian times. And I feel like Wren is also very similar to that. It's a bird name. It's got that beauty to it and that warmth that we get from Anne as well. And it obviously ends the same with, so if you like Anne, it should match whatever first name and flow with your surname. If you put it with a popular name, so you imagine you have like a Harper Anne, for example, it sounds really lovely. But then if you go Harper Wren, it does sound really elevated a little bit, but still just as nice. I really like it. The other one that I came up with, which is really bonkers, but I just thought so long and hard about this name because it's so irreplaceable, and something just kept popping into my mind, which you might think I'm totally bonkers for, but I thought of the name Quill. So it doesn't really exist as a name. Obviously it is a writer's quill, very Harry Potter, but I just for some reason get the same vibe as an Anne, maybe because Anne to me is very literary and vintage. I felt the same. So if you have like a Harper Quill, oh, just so pretty on paper, literally gives me little butterflies because I love it so much. Any name with the middle name Quill, Evelina Quill, it's just really nicey. Josie Quill, it just sounds so good. And Quinn was so in a little while ago, wasn't it? But I feel like, get out of here, Quinn, in with the quill. It's so pretty. Jane and Elizabeth were joint 4th middle spot popularity for girls. For Jane, I'm obviously a Sarah Jane. You could really easily mix it up for Lane, which I think is really nice with the Y. So I'm Jane, Jayne. which always annoys me a little bit, but I do think that Lane with the Layne looks so beautiful, and obviously kind of just a place name off the beaten path going down the little lanes. It's really, really cute and does honour a Jane in your family. Or unusual, but you could go Joplin. I know that's got nothing to do with Jane so much, but I just do love that name, Joplin, so I thought I would drop in Joplin. Because I was talking to somebody recently and I recommended it on a consultancy, Joplin, and she really liked it and we got a bit obsessed with talking about it. It's like Janis Joplin, just so sweet. It's very, very bouncy and upbeat, Joplin. I feel like so many of you could use it as a middle spot. For Elizabeth, it's obviously one of our biggest names that we play around with. It's been around for so long, we've got lots of variations of it. Eliza is your most popular one, I would say, that's really booming up through the charts as well and gets a lot of love here on the channel, just simply changing Elizabeth to Eliza. My favourite is Elspeth, which is got the same grandeur, I feel, as Elizabeth, but or you could go another royal name like a Margaret if you're just really into that, and I love the name Margaret at the moment. But for Elizabeth, if you want to switch it up, I would go with Eliza or Elspeth because it's got the same sort of length as it. And number 3 was Grace. I love the name Grace, but alternatives to it, either you go down the modern virtue name again. My favourite is Joy at the moment. I love it. It reminds me of Pixar as well. Gosh, how much do you love Inside Out? It makes me cry every single time. But I just love the name Joy. It was such a high contender for Evelina's middle name, and it's much less popular than having Grace in the middle. Or a totally unused virtue name is Charity. And I just always find it really strange that Charity isn't used, especially after the popularity of Greatest Showman, and she was Charity. I feel like it could really come back. I know that maybe people associate it, obviously, as giving to charity, or maybe people don't like charity shops and that type of thing. I obviously love a charity shop. But Charity, really interesting one. Or you could go with the Greek version of Grace, which is Charis. That is so nice, isn't it? So say Grace is used a lot in the middle spot for your family. You're still using the name Grace, so just going with an alternative. Delivery man, always looking at me as well. My window cleaner, so now all a bit awkward because he is now looking in the window at me. Yeah, you could go Charis, which means exactly the same, means kindness, life. It is just the Greek version of Grace, so I think it is really, really stunning as well. Number 2, most popular middle spot for girls, you won't be surprised, is the name Rose. Really irreplaceable, isn't it, Rose? And again, it just is a double barrel one that just doesn't compete but adds that sort of prettiness, particularly as we're going down more gender neutral first names. Things like Sailor Rose, we've got, or Sawyer Rose, or Jones Rose. So we hear so many where they've used Rose to kind of feminise it. You could go simply with Rosa. We were adding the A on, and it's the Italian version, which I love. I just think for some reason it's just so pretty, but it is a double bounce then, so you might not want that. Or you go, this is unusual, you go Rhodes. So you go the place name instead, which I know is really funny because you're basically just changing it a tiny bit, but I feel like it's such a lovely masculine version of Rose as well. So I wanted to mention it because you might want to go the other way around and have a really feminine first name like Blossom Rhodes rather than Blossom Rose. And you probably would always be correcting it. I know, but Rhodes also could be really nice for a boy. Or I think just those, I thought Jove, which is the one syllable, which is another word for Jupiter, the planet. But what I actually felt was muted colour names is the way to go. If you like Rose, it's that particular thing, isn't it? You can't really mess with it. So I thought those sort of muted colour floral things is perfect. So Bloom actually has become really popular in the middle spot. I'll probably annoy some of you now because I know it's getting used a lot in the middle, Bloom, but I think it's gorgeous. Or things like Lilac. I think Lilac has a real similar feel to Rose because it's that beautiful colour again. Or even something like Ivory. Ivory was really popular on my muted colour name list. We really liked it instead of like an Ivy or an Isla, Ivory. So you can imagine if your first name is something like Genevieve Rose, you go Genevieve Lilac, Genevieve Ivory, and suddenly it's like, or Genevieve Bloom, and suddenly it looks really kind of, it does add a certain whimsicalness to it that elevates it. So can I say elevates it any more in this video? I will try. So elevating the next middle name, which is number 1, is the name Louise. So Louise is the number 1 middle spot for girls. I'm not surprised, again, I know so many people who've got the middle name Louise, and most of them, obviously it's a gorgeous name. It is really pretty, and that's why it's popular, like Olivia. But most people then go, oh yeah, I'm just a Louise in the middle. Like they sort of throw it away because it's just become so popular. So you could go with something really simple like an Isla. ISLA, which obviously uses a lot of the same letters. It's again really popular if you don't want to be too bold in the middle. I think Isla is at number 3 in the UK at the moment for Louise, or you could go Locket. Just remember I'm wearing my locket, which I know is getting used, or you could go Lucia. I love the name Lucia. Lots of people say Lucia, which is also correct, or Lucia, and it means light. And I think if you have a Louise, Lucia is just such a beautiful variation of it and goes so beautifully as a middle spot for something like a Delilah Lucia. Is suddenly really lovely than a Delilah Louise or a Daphne Lucia. Just looks so pretty written down, and it just adds that extra sort of element that we talked about. Well, the last one that I've done is the name Una. What do you think of the name Una? Again, an Irish name, and I wonder if this is going to be coming back because we've gone so into Noah as a name, haven't we, for girls in the middle spot, and we really like it. But I'm wondering about, and we've gone so far into Luna. So I'm wondering about Una, the Irish name, so beautiful. We've got Louise. Una is a really good, similar sounding name to it. So beautiful, and Una is the personification of truth, beauty, and unity. Isn't that stunning? Like, I've not had that name on my radar for so long, and I also just think it works so well in the middle because you're looking for that sort of thing that's this perfect simplicity, bit unique, and also riffs off a first name that's quite popular. I'm going to finish up. I'm going to let my window cleaner come in. Oh my god! I don't know if people know that I'm a YouTuber in my road. They must just think I'm so strange. I just told them I was working, so you're all on my meeting if anyone asks if he comes to your house next. Thank you so much for listening. Do hit subscribe if you want to listen to the boys version of this list, which is coming up next week. Don't forget to check out the podcast. It's called Baby Name Envy. It is brand new. It's done so well. And it's me and my sister answering all of your baby name dilemmas. Your real life dilemmas that you send me all the time are in there. And if you want to join in, I'll also let you know in the podcast how to do that as well. We're also on Pinterest. We're on Instagram. Every single week, me and my sister are doing new Baby Name Envy lives every Saturday with a special guest. So do follow me on Baby Name Envy on Instagram to join in on those as well. So much happening, so much baby names, so many babies being born. Lots of love everyone, and I'll see you next Monday. Bye bye.